Hey y'all, it's Pretty Shy. Welcome back to my channel. And get comfortable if you're new. We're about to get into a story time. And I know it's about a month late, but I didn't take into consideration that I was having family in town for the holidays, and I just refuse to record in front of people, y'all. It just gives me the cringe. So I just couldn't do it. And not only that, my job has been extremely busy lately, whereas I used to be able to edit videos at work, but lately there's been no downtime. So now that the holidays are over and work is slowing down again, it's time to get back into my vlogs because I've really been missing my little hobby, you know? If you're new, this is part 2 of how I tried to turn a pimp into a Studsband. It's the weekend, I'm home alone, and I'm ready to talk about it. But before we get into it, please go ahead and like the video and subscribe to my channel so that I can continue to give you guys story times. I don't want no one but you there. I hope you want the same thing as I do, babe. If you want me, you will let me know because I don't want no one. Now, if you're here because you're waiting for me to tell a story about how she pimped me out and beat my ass for 2 years, you're gonna be waiting forever. Just to be clear, I never let her exploit me in that way. I never let her pimp me out, and she never put her hands on me again. But I did talk to her for 2 more years. And if it makes it any better, I didn't even talk to her right away after she put her hands on me. So on the day that she hit me, I blocked her number, but the very next day, she called me from a different number. When I picked up, I heard her voice, and I just was instantly rattled. I couldn't even say anything because I was so shook. I just hung up the phone. And she called me right back, of course, and I answered for whatever reason. And she said, "I'm sorry, please talk to me." But as soon as I heard her voice, it's like my heart just started racing, and I felt like everything around me froze. Like it was as if I shrank. My whole body just felt small in that moment. I felt detached from reality. It was like I was floating above myself, watching myself hold the phone. So in that moment, what I thought would be our future just flashed before my eyes in a few seconds. And all I saw was her taking my money, taking my car, and eventually just becoming more aggressive towards me to the point where I was in a domestically violent relationship with her. Jesus, the thought of it's just choking me up. Like, anyways, so with that thought, I hung up again. That still didn't stop her from calling me from different numbers, and I still continued to block everyone. I even had to block her mom's number for a few months. And you would think that with my history of domestic violence, she would have stayed blocked. To be honest, at that point, I hadn't really been in a domestic violent relationship. I had only grown up in it. I watched my mom go through a lot of difficult situations that led us to living in domestic violence shelters and being surrounded by women who had suffered so much abuse. You know, they had black eyes, they had been abused financially, sexually, all these different ways. It installed a fear in me at a young age. I really didn't want to be in a domestic violent relationship. And you know what's funny? We always tend to break the promises that we make to ourselves when we're young. I told myself I wasn't gonna smoke, drink, or date anybody that I would have to fight. And look at me at 18 years old, smoking, drinking, and entertaining a girl that actually balled her fist and hit me. So at first, when Kim kept reaching out to me, I was genuinely afraid to deal with her. I was worried that if I forgave her, of course, like I said, it would turn into like a constant cycle of drama. So I chose to ignore her and try to focus on dating again. The only thing was, in Olympia, Washington, there wasn't many black masculine women, which is what I'm primarily attracted to. Although I attempted to try to date over the summer, it just didn't go well because meeting people in Olympia, Washington that I was attracted to just wasn't likely. I turned back to online dating. Unfortunately, most of the people that I connected with were from Tacoma or Seattle, and I desperately wanted someone that I didn't have to travel for. I did meet one girl who worked in statistics at the Army base, and I was so thirsty for any type of connection at the time. It only took us about 2 weeks before we became intimate with each other. And after that, she started treating me badly, as if like she felt like I was a bot or a smut or something. So she started low-key talking to me crazy, but she basically was trying to tell me that I was for the streets because we messed around so quickly. It was always these real subtle comments that I really couldn't put together at the time. And I didn't understand the reason behind it because in my mind, if I'm such a bop and we mess around, doesn't that make you a bop too? Anyways, moving on. One day, she invited me to her apartment, and out of nowhere, we just started arguing. Well, really, she just started arguing with me. One moment, I'm sitting on her couch, and the next minute, she has a gun pointed to my face. And at the time, I was so young, I didn't really get afraid. I swatted the gun away like it was fake or something and just started yelling at her to take me home. And she did. It was an awkward ride. It was quiet. She just took me home, and we never spoke again. That's the end of that story. And I'm just stating that very briefly just to say that my dating life had taken a horrible turn, and I found myself just clinging on to what was familiar for me, which was Kim. I missed Kim, okay? Kim didn't pull a gun out on me. She may have had an attitude and put her hands on me, but she didn't pull a gun out on me. So I wanted to talk back to Kim. Just after ignoring Kim for so long, her calls started to die down. So what I decided to do was to start stalking her at the school. And it just so happened that one of my favorite cousins go to the same school. So I started using her as an excuse to be in the areas that I knew she would frequent. Because I did spend a lot of time at the college, but I was always in the library. I was never at the gym or anything like that. So I would convince my cousin to go to the gym with me. I would get all dressed up in a cute little outfit. I would convince my cousin to go to the basketball games with me. I would get all cute. And I knew that Kim was most likely going to be in those areas because that was her domain. Now, deep down, I'm hoping that she see my sexy ass and just regret how she treated me and want me back even more and say something to me, and then we hit it off and then we fly off into the sunset. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. But anyways, after a few months, we had a few chance encounters at the school, and she decided to call me one day and just ask how I was doing. And just like that, it was like nothing ever happened. We started talking again. We got back reconnected, and our phone conversation started again quite frequently. And I couldn't help but ask her on the first couple phone calls, like, why in the world would you try to pimp me out in the first place? I actually asked a lot of questions about, how she was living her life in the game, just to see if she was really about that life. And to my surprise, this was something that she was actually comfortable opening up about. And I found out that she ain't new to it. She's definitely true to it. She revealed that she had been in the game for quite some time and was making good money doing that. She mentioned she had 2 loyal girls. That's what she told me. She had 2 loyal girls that was more than happy to be part of their operation. And she even told me a little bit about their dynamic and how they interacted with each other. She was saying that she had one down bitch, one bottom bitch that was a rider no matter what. And then she had a little rowdy bitch that would only contribute to the cause here and there whenever she didn't have an attitude. You would think after hearing this, I would have been disgusted and ran away from the situation. But instead, I chose to pursue her harder. And I don't know why, y'all. You can't really ask me why. I don't understand my train of thought when I was 18 years old and 19 years old. At the time, I definitely don't think I was thinking with my brain. I think I was thinking with my heart, because I was confusing her pimping women with her being in relationships with women. And it was causing me to dislike these girls, even though I didn't know them. I just looked at them like obstacles between Kim and I getting together. Well, obviously competing with girls who are showering Kim with money is an impossible competition to try to beat, but I was still determined to give it a shot. So for the next few weeks, I still popped up at her school trying to bump into her all the time. If she mentioned she was going to the game, I'd get all dressed up and drag my cousin along. Half the time, I wouldn't even see her when I would try to pop up at the school. I just end up hanging out, all cute with my cousin. But the last time that I showed up to the school, I was in for a rude awakening. I decided I was going to try to pop up to one of the games and surprise her. And as soon as I walked into the stadium, I seen her sitting there with another girl. I immediately turned around and started walking towards the lobby. I was just hot at the time, my body was on fire. I'm just now starting to realize that she's been on the basketball team since I've known her, and she ain't never invited me to a game. Then they got the nerve to be sitting there like they're on a date. which they didn't really look like they was on a date, y'all. I just hated to see her with somebody else. So in my mind, if they were dating, then that was more than just a girl that works for her. And it was driving me crazy. I was in the lobby just pacing back and forth, losing my mind. And Kim must have seen me walk in the gym and walk straight out, because she came out the gym and asked me what I was doing there. And I'm so flustered, I couldn't even tell her what I was doing there. I just was like, who is the girl? She claimed, like, she's like, that's just a friend. And then she told me, like, I'll see you later. And then she rushed off. And when she walked back into the gym, the game was already over. So she ended up walking right back out with the girl. And in my mind, I'm feeling like she hurrying the girl to keep the girl from seeing me. There was an option to walk past me to get out the gym, and then a option to like go around, and she went the fuck around. So I'm like, why you ain't walk your bitch past me? I'm just losing my mind, y'all. And this is around the time I start doing crazy stuff. I felt compelled to find out more about this girl. So I snooped on Kim's Facebook and I found her. They had what looked like to be couples photos with like matching outfits and shoes and everything. And I was just sick. The girl was completely opposite to me, and it was driving me crazy because I'm like, this can't be my competition. Like, yeah, she was beautiful, light skin, BBW, but I felt like I was prettier, and I felt like I was skinnier, and I felt like this should have been a piece of cake. Why am I competing with this girl? Little did I know, it don't matter how cute or thin I felt, that girl was ready to cover all the expenses, which changed everything. So I kept digging, and I found another girl in a picture with Kim. And this girl was another naturally beautiful girl. She had locks, she was dark skinned, and she had these really pretty, like cat-like almond-shaped eyes. And I'm like, damn, like, I don't know if I can compete with this girl. Like, I don't know if she's prettier than me or not, but like, she's pretty, you know, like, and she's thinner than me. So I'm like thinking like, damn, Kim doesn't really have a type. She's just gonna deal with whoever's silly enough to deal with her. And unfortunately at the time, I was gung-ho on dealing with Kim. So even though I seen these pictures, I didn't do nothing about it really. I questioned her about it. After my online stalking session, I called Kim immediately and I'm like, who are these two girls? Naturally, she said what she always say. These are my friends. We're just friends, like her and I. And she didn't really elaborate either. She just said that they are friends. And it just got me to thinking, like, maybe I've been delusional the entire time. Maybe Kim and I are just friends and there was never any future between us. Maybe she never ever thought that. Listen, guys, that thought went in one ear and out the other in almost an instant. I was extremely delusional at the time, and I was determined to be with Kim. I wanted to believe that a few pictures didn't really mean anything, and I more so complained to Kim about how she had these couple photos with another girl and we didn't have any pictures together. And then she went on to explain how she tried to take pictures with me last year, but I told her no. She was like, remember that? Remember that? And I did remember, actually. When we got the shoes, she said, let's go take pictures. And I wasn't down. I was irritated already because, of course, she wanted me to pay for them. So I got mad and told her no. And then she never brought it up again. I never brought it up again. So in that moment, I took that as my L. And I never brought any of it back up again either. So after that, time seemed to just fly by. We had already known each other for a whole year now. And I'm still doing everything that I can to make her want to come around. I'm still in the kitchen, cooking, trying to clean, and, you know, occasionally buying weed from her. Now, the good thing is she's no longer taking my car. It seems like her friends helped her get her car fixed after I refused to do so. And it looked like she was doing just perfectly fine without my money. She was getting along well, and we were getting along well. We really didn't have many arguments after that. In fact, she became really easy with me, I'd say. I think that she realized that I wasn't going for certain things, and she kind of backed off, which made her start to be calm with me again, and it made me start to feel comfortable again, enough to take it a step further to the point where I wanted her to actually be my girlfriend, and I was working on that. So I wasn't willing to spend money, nor could I, even if I wanted to, but I was willing to do everything else I could. I treated Kim like royalty, to be honest, so much so that I even called her that. I was so corny back then. I used to call her King. I would be like, hey King, how's your day going? Hey King, how you been? I hope your day's going well. I even wrote her poems, like expressing that. Like, I might show one of the poems that I wrote for her. It's really cheesy. Like, it's low-key a dope poem, but like, it's just corny that I wrote it for somebody that didn't care about me. On top of that, I would always rub her back, and it seemed like every night, whenever she came over, I would just spoil her in general. Everything that I was doing was leading to us getting closer, and eventually that led to Kim and I getting physical, whatever. Would you believe, like, I waited a whole year and a half to have sex with Kim, and the experience was very underwhelming, okay? It definitely wasn't giving what I imagined it would. I don't know why I thought it would be anything different than her personality, but I just knew we were gonna make love when we first, got around to it. This was just also disappointing because I craved her so much and for such a long time. Since the day I met her, all I ever thought about was her taking me down, you know what I'm saying? At night, when we would cuddle, my head would just be spinning, like with thoughts. I would just be thinking, like, what if we're just laying here and she just starts kissing all over me, and she just starts folding me like a pretzel and having me speak different languages until, like, I just would fall asleep in sheer disappointment every night because we would never do anything. For the longest time, Kim never made a move, and I definitely wasn't gonna make no move, so it just never happened until one day she decided that we should do a little something. So we're nearly a year and a half in, and she told me that we should go to the store and get some things, the type of things that, you're supposed to put in a backpack. And so we went to the little store and we picked up our little items and we went home. And at the end of the day, Kim tossed me around like a sack of potatoes. It was very unappetizing. When I pictured it our first time, I don't know why, I thought it was gonna be romantic or something. But Kim didn't know how to make love. She only knew how to straight fuck. Like, that's all she knew how to do, and that's all we ever did. We never even really kissed. It was always straight to business and then go to sleep. And then that became our routine. And it still wasn't like we were in a relationship, even though we were having relations now. She still didn't give a damn about if I had an attitude or my feelings or anything. Like, if I ever got an attitude, she would just look at me and be like, oh, well, we could be fucking, but you got an attitude. And I just sit there with an attitude, arms crossed, thinking about how she's completely right, but I'm just too irritated about whatever it was to get in the mood. And actually, it wasn't even until Christmas that Kim kissed me for the very first time. And let me tell you how it happened, okay? She mentioned she was coming over, so I started getting ready just in case, things got a little spicy. I jumped in the shower, and as I was stepping out, she knocked on the door. So I rushed to answer, towel wrapped around me, and I'm thinking she about to come in, and I'm already ready in the towel, so let's go. But instead, she handed me a bag full of Victoria's Secret perfumes and lotions and stuff. And here's a picture of it, you guys. It was so cute to me. I just was so excited because Kim had never gotten me anything. She had never gotten me nothing. She never paid for my food, never done anything for me. So I actually had a gift for her too, since it was Christmas. So I told her to hold on at the door while I went and grabbed this burgundy jacket that I had bought for her from Finish Line. Because she did tell me she wasn't staying. She said she just wanted to drop off the gift and she had to go. So when I brought out the jacket and she saw it, she had like this really light expression on her face. Like, she was just shocked, and she just was happy about it because I don't think she really thought I was gonna get her anything. After she hit me, I stopped buying her anything. I stopped giving her money for real unless it was for weed. Like, I really don't think she thought she was gonna get anything. So before she dipped out, she gave me a kiss. And that just gave me yet another reason to be delulu over Kim. I didn't think that Kim would ever kiss me. The whole time I thought that Kim just didn't kiss, and I had accepted the fact long ago. And after she left, like, I was just so rizzed up, like, oh my gosh, she kissed me. I'm over here on cloud 9, spinning around the room in a towel, clutching my Victoria's Secret bag, just a grinning. Even though it wasn't much of a kiss, it was just a long peck. And later I realized that the Victoria's Secrets and shit was already open, so I don't know where she got it from. But it didn't matter. I was just happy to have a kiss for the first time. And then we started kissing while we started messing around. To be completely honest, I didn't know how to French kiss at the time, but Kim taught me. So when she was teaching me all these things, how to French kiss, how to give hickeys, and how to fuck around her way, of course, I started to feel even more so attached to her and look up to her even more. And with me saying all this, you might still be wondering, why was I so head over heels for Kim? She was selfish, she was secretive, rude, very aggressive, and the intimacy was about a 3 or 4 out of 10. And above all of that, she's out here pimping women. Let me explain why. I really admired Kim because she really embodied everything that I was struggling to be at the time. So I thought that if I spent enough time with her, some of the qualities that she had would just naturally rub off onto me. And I just wanted to absorb all of her energy. I felt like Kim, at the end of the day, she was a very dominant person and she ran shit, and I wanted to run shit too. To me, it just seemed like she was the wisest person around, mostly due to her age and experience. Whenever I faced any type of problem or dilemma, she always had the perfect answer. And she always had confidence in her words. That was very inspiring to me. At the time, I was shy and a bit goofy. At the time, I'm 18, my conversations are often scattered and kind of silly. But talking to somebody as serious as Kim helped me concentrate more on actually what I was saying and thinking before I say it. Naturally, I was submissive, but like I said, I wanted to be more assertive, I wanted to be more dominant, and she had that down pat. She could take charge of a situation. She was the type that if she needed to get out of her car and direct traffic, she would do so. If she needed to get somewhere bad enough and traffic was backed up. And I absolutely love that about her. She had this type of personality where she would say something and people would do it. People would listen, including myself. And I admired that strength in her. Like, I felt like that was something that I couldn't muster up. I couldn't be dominant at the time. I couldn't speak my mind. I couldn't do a lot of things like that. Another thing that I admired about Kim is that she was incredibly disciplined. Like I said, when we first met, she enrolled in college without a stable place to stay. And despite that, she still made that trip from Seattle to Olympia every week for her classes. Eventually, she confided in her basketball teammates, and they start helping her by letting her crash on their couch or whatever. But she was very dedicated in school. And me, on the other hand, I was late to class almost every day, and I only stayed like 15 minutes from campus, and I had a car. Not only that, but I seen how dedicated Kim was when she stopped smoking weed just to focus on selling it. And to me, that was something that I was finding hard to relate to, but I ultimately respected because I couldn't imagine giving up smoking. Like, that really showed me how high her drive was for success, because we would smoke together and then all of a sudden she stopped just so she could sell it. And that made me see her business mindset, and it made me admire her even more. And on top of that, Kim, to me, she kind of radiated confidence. Even when she would feel insecure or embarrassed, Kim kind of told me some stuff that was going on with her that most people wouldn't be upfront about or be real about. And the way she told me was so matter of fact and so blunt that it shocked me, but it was very refreshing to see. I admired that about her because it showed that no matter what she was going through or who she was around, Kim was going to be true to herself. And Kim showed me that it's possible to be true to yourself no matter what people think. She was always upfront with me, and I respected that. She wouldn't give me the commitment I wanted, but she was clear about her intentions from the beginning, and I respected it, even when it hurt. I was just being delusional at the time, thinking that one day she will express real feelings for me, especially when she started being nicer to me and we started getting closer and having relations and all that. I genuinely wanted to believe that there was potential for more growth. And I said all that to say that Kim wasn't a bad person. In my eyes, she just had a bad hustle. I know the first part of my story time makes it seem like she's a total monster, and I wanted to explain how she wasn't, because obviously I want people to know that, pimps have to have some type of good qualities about them. Otherwise, nobody will work for them voluntarily, right? So I explained all the good qualities that I found in Kim because I want to warn people. I want you to know what to look for, because a pimp is going to try to exude leadership qualities. They're going to try to show you that they're a leader so that you'll feel comfortable enough to let them lead. They're going to try to teach you and mold you and then make you pay for the knowledge that they gave you. And contrary to what people believe when they are in the game, knowledge and love are supposed to be accessible and free to everyone. that's just my opinion. I'm here to say that it doesn't matter how wise or charming a person is. You don't need to pay for love, and you don't need to keep anyone around that's trying to use you. And I really hope you're listening to me. Now, I keep saying I was happy with what we had going on. We wasn't having any major issues. But over the next year or so, I realized finally that there was no potential to grow. There was 3 events that happened that really made me reevaluate my feelings for Kim. It all started around the time where I needed to find a new place. I was starting to get too old to stay in the youth program that was providing my apartment. So I thought it would be a good idea to ask her to move in together once I finished the program. I thought she'd be down for it once the program was over, because remember when I first met Kim, she was looking for apartments and crashing on her cousin's sofa. After a fallout with her cousin, she told me that she ended up staying on the sofa at one of her teammates' houses. So I thought she'd be all down to get a nice apartment with me and her, paying half the bills. So a few months before I needed to move out, I asked Kim if we could get an apartment together. And with a straight face, she told me that it's only gonna work if I cover all the bills. And in that moment, I realized that Kim wasn't interested in a partnership with me unless I took care of her. And that just didn't make sense to me. Like, the math wasn't mathing. I'm 19. Why would I be taking care of a 31-year-old woman? It just wasn't making sense to me, even if I wanted it to. So at that point, I knew that there was no hope for a serious relationship with Kim. So I might as well try to find someone new to start my life with, and I could just, have benefits with her like we've been doing, because I guess that's all we've been doing, right? Now, with doing that, talking to other people, my feelings for Kim gradually started to fade, because I started to focus on dating and also finding another roommate, and that way I can have a stable environment to finish college. Unfortunately, my budget was very tight and I didn't have many options, so I stumbled upon a loft for rent. Fast forward to the second event that happened to make me change my feelings for Kim. It was around November 2013. It was shortly after I moved in, and I was upstairs in the loft trying to make it feel like home, unpacking, and Kim decided to come over in the middle of my unpacking, and she wanted to stay the night. I was then trying to hurry up and get it together so that she could be comfortable, because y'all know Kim don't like to be in no messy space. Kim came over to stay the night, but she barely lasted 10 minutes before she caught an attitude and then stormed out. So what had happened was, she came in and sat on the bed while I was cleaning, and I was just walking back and forth grabbing different stuff, and I kept walking back and forth past this little piece of paper. So she's like, pick up the piece of paper. And I looked at her and I'm like, I'll pick it up in a minute. Hold on, I'm doing something. So she got real stern with me and she was like, pick it up. Where is this aggression coming from out of nowhere? Like, I laughed because I just couldn't take her seriously. I didn't know what she was tripping for, so I laughed. And that just made it worse. She was already big mad, talking about how I should have picked it up already, but I just couldn't believe she was genuinely upset over something so small. And like I said, I was confused from where the attitude change was coming from out of nowhere, so I just kept laughing. And she got up, grabbed her shoes that I had bought her from out of my closet, and left. And at that time, it had been a while since Kim had really acted that way, but I didn't let it bother me too much, because now I've got other options, so you can go ahead and be mad. Still, like the following week, we ended up making up. She invited me over to her place for the first time, and I was just so excited. I was still trying to act mad though, because, you just had an attitude for no reason. So this is supposed to be the place where she's staying with a teammate in a 1-bedroom apartment. So I'm coming in, I'm checking the scenery, I'm looking around, and it's not much, it's a little furniture in there, a couch, a couple side tables. I don't really see much. Like, there's a couple decorations and stuff, no real pictures or anything. And then when we come in, Kim is telling me that we can't go in the bedroom because that room belongs to her roommate, which is the teammate off of the basketball team, right? All right. So we sit on the sofa and, we're just talking. I'm still trying to act like I don't want to be there, and I'm trying to play hard to get when really I'm like mad excited. And I just couldn't believe she is just now inviting me over to her place, and I've known her for over a year, going on 2 years now. Like, why is this place such a secret? I'm sitting there soaking it all in while she's like going on about how I need to start listening so things can go smoother between us, and how I'm always going against the grain, and that's why things don't work out between us as fast as I wanted to. And I'm just looking at her so unseriously because I'm still tickled that she tried to lecture me over not picking up a piece of paper. So she's looking at me differently though. I'm looking at her unseriously and she's looking at me like a snack for some reason. And now that I think about it, my loft situation wasn't the best for grown folk behavior. So maybe that's why she invited me over for the first time. I don't know, but I'm just sitting there trying to look cute and trying to act like I'm not paying her no attention. Really, I'm just waiting for her to turn me every which way but loose in this community living area. Usually, if I had an attitude, she would tell me, you know, we could be fucking around, but you got an attitude. But today, she's not having that type of attitude. She's looking at me like, attitude or not, I'm about to come up off of that. And that's what it was. She pushed up on me, and I don't know if it was because I was on a high from being at her place, or it was the way she was looking at me, or the aggression in the moment. But that day, she turned that little 3 or 4 into a solid like 7.5. Okay, I was really feeling it that day. And that was just enough for me to entertain her for a little while longer. Yeah, I know. Anyways, the last event took place in July. A few months before my high school graduation, my family had relocated to Georgia. So, you know, I'm 19 now. It had been about 2 years, and it's time for me to go pay them a visit. So I planned to be out there for a whole week, and I thought it would be a good idea to clear out my fridge. I had a lot of food in there. I was gonna just drop it off down the street at Kim's house before I go to the airport. I called Kim to see what she was doing, and she said that she was just doing something around the corner real quick, and she was close to her place. So I decided to just drive over to her apartment and surprise her. Now, like, I wasn't thinking clearly. I just was gonna pop up at her house with this food. Now, I'm on the phone with Kim when I arrive at her house. I'll get the bags out the car, and I'm making my way up the stairs. And as I got closer to the door, I noticed that it was wide open. So I freeze in my spot. Like, I'm like thinking to myself, like, dang, why didn't you think about the fact that her roommate could be here? I'm over here pulling up at this girl's house like she live alone. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, let me just drop the food off and then I'll leave. While I'm standing there, I hear music playing and I smell food, smelling good, all in the air. I took a few steps closer to the door and kind of peeked through the window. And guess what, y'all? I saw the same woman that was at the basketball games and in the Facebook photos, and she was just in the kitchen, cooking and cleaning, looking very much like she lives there. My heart just sank to the sole of my shoes because Kim said she was staying with a teammate. But this clearly wasn't the case. This isn't the teammate that I thought she was living with. You said you was living with on a teammate from the basketball team, but really you living with a teammate that's on your team, and I don't think I was ever accepting of that. I may have been delusional from shock, but I could have sworn that there were pictures on the side tables and all around that I had never seen before. And the place suddenly looked cozier, like feeling very much like home. And I was feeling very much like the side piece. So I thought it would be best to step away from this woman's house. So I dropped the food off quickly by the door and I just left. Meanwhile, I'm still on the phone with Kim, but I had damn near completely forgotten. Like, I gone mute on the phone. I stopped talking to her completely and I'm just holding the phone. My head is just racing. I just couldn't believe that she really didn't live with a teammate and that she's basically somebody's live-in girlfriend. I'm over here thinking about all the possible scenarios of her little live-in girlfriend situation. I'm over here like, they must be sharing a bed. It only makes sense. They must be waking up together. She cooks all the meals. They really be living life together like a whole couple, while I'm on the sideline begging for every piece of crumb of affection that Kim has to give me, like a starving duck or something. Like, I'm over here being so desperate and thinking I can compete when the girl is already in the house. I could only imagine. She probably turns this girl every which way but loose like she does me. But the only difference is she get it done in the bed and not on the sofa like me. While I'm over here occasionally getting it from her, this girl must be getting it all the time because they live together. So I'm internally crashing out and I hear Kim's voice break through my thoughts and she's like, "Did you just leave my place?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did actually. And I thought you lived with your teammate." So she went on to clarify that she actually did stay with her teammate at first and then that changed. I'm like, "You never thought to mention that you were living with that girl after all the times I was asking about her?" And she responded, "Well, we're just friends. Like, you and I are just friends. We're all just friends." And so, she didn't think nothing of it. And then she proceeded to add that, "Oh, the girl said next time you don't have to leave the food at the door. You could have knocked and let her bring it in." Bitch, what? I just got upset and I ended the call. When I tell y'all I was hurt, I was hurt. I was finally done with the situation. I cried real tears. The entire time I checked into the airport, I was crying so bad. I didn't even need to blink to cry. The tears were just leaking from my eyes, literally like a faucet. I cried so hard. I had to awkwardly hide my face in the airport while trying to get in there and show my ID and get through TSA. I'm just like, "Here's my ID, ma'am, here." And I'm just like really going through it. And I'm so mad that I couldn't control my emotions. Yo, why my sister come home? Now I don't want to do it no more. I'm trying to convince her to go to the store so I can finish my little story time. So now we just wait. Okay. All right, let me try to hurry up and tell the story because my sister just went to the store and I'm alone again. Okay. So basically, you guys, I was upset. I was crying on the plane so hard that I cried myself to sleep. And then when I woke up, as soon as I came to reality of what had just happened, I cried some more. When I finally landed and greeted my family, I looked like that Jordan meme and I was just a hot mess, but they're thinking, I just miss them so much. And even though I enjoyed my trip, every time I found myself alone, like the tears would just start falling out of nowhere. I just couldn't take the fact that she was living with that girl and didn't want to live with me. Like, she invited that girl to games. They had photos together with matching outfits. Here I am, just goofy looking, chasing after the girl. That was never mine. What happened to me being your bitch, Kim? Like, I thought that, with all that time we were spending together and all the stuff we were doing that, we were something. Why would you lie about who you were living with if, you guys were just friends? Why this? Why that? Why everything? Just why? Like, my Shayla. I was just so hurt. But this was the situation that made me call it quits. For weeks, Kim still called my phone, and I was just too pissed off to answer. Like, I felt like she deceived me, even though, according to her, she had simply just left some details out. And I just continued to ignore her. I stopped following her around the school. If she wanted to be with someone else, I just figured, like, so be it. I felt pathetic after that. No matter how much effort I put into my appearance, no matter, what I did for her, how slim I was, how just much effort I put in, period, how much I treated her like a king, none of that mattered. I thought I loved Kim, and it really hurt that she really didn't have the same feelings towards me. I couldn't wrap my mind around a reason why she would spend so much time with me and be at my house every week, and especially after I stopped giving her money. I couldn't figure out why she wanted to still be around. It just didn't make sense, and I still to this day don't understand. I guess to her nothing else mattered but the money, and she was willing to play the long run. And the reason why I said that Kim really affected how I thought in my 20s, because after the situationship we had, I felt like I couldn't have a relationship unless I paid for it. So the next situationship that I stumbled upon, I paid for everything to keep the girl around. I stayed with that girl for about 4 years, and during that time, I made the decision to drop out of school and try to start a business with her. And I ended up covering all of our living expenses and focusing just solely on her. We ended up relocating from Washington State to Las Vegas, where I am currently. And honestly, once we moved here, things just got miserable. that's actually going to be the next part to my series of how I wasted my 20s, so stay tuned for that. But basically, during that time, I reached out to Kim every so often. Very, very few times I reached out to her because she was the only person I felt like I could confide in for solid advice. Remember, I said Kim always knew the perfect things to say. And when I couldn't confide in the crowd that I was in after I had moved to Vegas, I jumped back to what was comfortable for me. And Kim, she ended up predicting exactly how the situation would turn out. But unfortunately, I didn't listen to her. And when it failed, like she said, I returned to Washington to get my things out of storage and move it into my new place in Vegas because me and the girl had separated. Once I was back in town, I called Kim and she asked me who I was driving back to Vegas with, and I told her I was going alone. Mind you, it was the middle of wintertime. I had never driven a U-Haul across the states, and I thought that I could manage driving the U-Haul to Nevada by myself. She, of course, told me that that wasn't the best idea and offered to drive with me. And I'm so glad she did, because I thought that because there wasn't any snow in Vegas and there wasn't any snow in Washington, that there wasn't going to be any snow at all. So when we got the U-Haul, I didn't get any snow tires. I didn't get any chains for the tires or anything. I just got on the road. And if it wasn't for Kim, I don't think we really would have made it. I don't think I would have made it by myself without Kim. Now, even though she was helping me, I still had to let her know that I'm not going for any BS. I told her she could come, but I had a new girlfriend at the time, and she could not stay with me, not even for a little bit, not even for a night. Plus, I didn't have any money to offer her to help me for driving across the states. And she said that was all good. She was gonna figure things out and make it work, and that's exactly what she did. She even came and helped me like move my stuff into my apartment, and I still didn't let her stay. So fast forward to about 3 years ago, that was the last time I seen Kim. She came to Vegas for her birthday with her whole family. They came along, and since I was single at the time and feeling extremely lonely, I celebrated with her. After she left town, I kept in touch with Kim just to talk as friends, because at the time I had moved here and separated from the girl, so I was literally in Vegas alone. I didn't know anyone. I really needed somebody to talk to, and I actually really appreciate her for being that person that I could talk to at the time. I would call her and vent, and of course she always had the best answers for everything. You know, for a few weeks we talked on the phone, but gradually I just stopped calling and I never heard from her again. She deleted her social media. I don't have her number, but even if I did, I wouldn't talk to Kim because we're just two completely different people coming from two completely different worlds, and we often just could not relate. So that is the story time. That is what it took me to stop trying to turn a pimp into a Studsband or a wife or whatever you want to call it. That's what it took. It took me to realize that she was living with another woman. All the other stuff didn't matter to me, I guess. I didn't want her to be so close with someone else. Well, that's about the end of the story time, you guys. I really appreciate you for sticking around and watching until the end if you made it. If you did make it here, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you're new. It really helps me, get the motivation to continue these story times and making these videos for you guys. So as always, if you think I'm a vibe, please like and follow.